We made it. We made it. Days 2.7. Doesn't that mean like the really hard stuff? Sort of. It should be the harder stuff of the unit at the end, so it's closer to the test. My name is Mr. Krause. Thanks for coming. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It helps Miss Newman and I out, as well as allows us to do some other things. And who knows, maybe next year we'll be doing pre-calc next year. I don't know. That's Miss Newman. She's my partner in crime, Miss Newman. And we are NK Infinity and Beyond.com. All right. So let's talk about double radicals. Like if one radical wasn't enough, let's just do two. Why not? It's so not much fun. It's not bad. You guys can handle this. All right. So we got some new rules. Let me go over my new rules. Oops. Got to zoom in over here. You can only have one radical per side. You're going to square both sides, and we're going to end up having to double distribute and do a bunch of funky stuff. Then we got a whole lot of algebra to do. But because we had two radicals, we're going to have another radical alone, and then it's like yesterday's stuff. The big thing I just want to remind you is you must check for extraneous solutions. Doing this method of solving equations, you're probably going to end up with lots of weird, bogus, dumb, not right answers. I don't want you to be that kid that says, oh my God, Mr. Krause said to check them, I didn't check them, and I didn't do very well on my test. Probably should have listened to him. Sorry, these kind of slammed up into each other. Hopefully on yours, it looks a little bit more professional. But I have a radical here, and I have a radical here. So you need to have one radical per side, and you need to isolate one radical. So you need to have one radical isolated on a side, and I have that. So my steps are to square it. So I'm going to square this side. Remember, every time I square something, you always see me put it in parentheses. And I'm going to square this side. This side's easy. It's just x plus 4. This side, not so much. We got a little bit of work to do. We got to double distribute this. We're going to write it twice, and we're going to double distribute. So x plus 4 here equals 3 times 3 is 9, minus 3 square roots of x, minus 3 square roots of x, and then negative square root of x times negative x is positive square roots of x squared. Okay. In the future, by the way, the square root of x times the square root of x is just x. You'll see that in a minute. We got x plus 4 equals 9 minus 6x plus x. Because remember, the square and the square root cancel. All right. Minus 6 square roots of x. Sorry, I didn't put that on there. That looks terrible. Let me fix that real quick for you. So minus 6 square roots of x. Okay. So then the steps say isolate the radical again. Now here's the thing. I don't like having things negative. They bother me. I don't know why. It just bothers me to have negative. So I'm going to bring this thing over by adding 6 square roots of x. So I'm going to get 6 square roots of x plus 4 equals 9 plus x. Now I'm going to get this radical by itself. I'm going to subtract x. I'm going to subtract 4. I'm going to subtract 4. So I get 6 square roots of x equals, this is a 4 by the way, 5. These cancel. Oh. Okay. Isolate the weird thing. Get the weird thing alone. We're going to have to divide by 6. And I get the square root of x equals 5 over 6. How do I get rid of a square root? I square both sides. I'm going to square this side and square this side. And if you square 5, you get 25. If you square 6, you get 36. There's my answer. Now checking this one, I would definitely use my calculator. So I'm going to show you again. We're going to store this in control division, 25 over 36. By the way, you can use the stow feature on the TI-84. The button's down in the bottom left. You just have to hit stow. It says stow right here at the bottom left. So you just put in 25 over 36 stow. In this calculator, you have to hit control and then var and then x, and hit enter. So now anytime I press x, it's 25 over 36. So now I'm going to type the left side in, which is the square root of x plus 4. The square root of x plus 4. I'm going to get some weird answer, especially if I do that. X, 13 over 6. And then I'm going to do the right side. 3 minus the square root of x. 13 over 6. And as long as those match, I'm good. So I've checked my answer. Perfect. Moving on, kids. Thought there was a problem over here. It isn't. Moving down, kids. All right. Notice here how we have two radicals on both sides. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to have two radicals on both sides, so you need to move one of them. It doesn't matter which one we move. I'll just move this one. So what I end up with is x minus 3 equals 4 minus the square root of x plus 5. All right, so now I've isolated one of the radicals. I'm going to square both sides. Please continue to use parentheses. Please. I can't stress it enough. On the left side, you just get x minus 3. Now on the right side, you know you're going to have to write this twice. So you can do it right here to try to save yourself a little bit of time. All right, so 4 times 4 is 16. And then 4 times negative that radical is negative 4 that radical. And then 4 times negative that radical is negative 4 that radical. And then negative that radical times negative that radical is positive that radical squared. Now, I can't stress this enough. The square root of x plus 5 times the square root of x plus 5 is really just x plus 5. So if you wanted to, you could have just written x plus 5 here, because this square and this square root cancel each other out. All right, let's clean it up a little bit. So you get x plus 3 equals 16 minus 8 square roots of x plus 5 plus x plus 5. Because that square and that square root just cancel each other out. It always does that. Switches pages on me. All right, so now we're going to clean this up. So let me do this kind of slowly. I'm going to bring this over to the other side. I'm going to add, I hate having negative stuff, so I'm going to add 8 square roots of x plus 5. It just makes it so you make less mistakes. It really, truly does. I can't stress it enough. There's so many mistakes that can be made with signs, and when the math's kind of complicated anyway, do you really want to introduce more problems with negatives? I don't. I hope you don't either. So I'm going to add that to both sides. So I get 8 square roots of x plus 5 plus x minus 3 equals. Now I'm going to put this move. I'm going to put the 16 and the 5 together and get 21 plus x, right? This is a positive x. All right. So the next step is to bring the x over and to bring the 3 over. So bring the x over. Those cancel. That's nice. That doesn't always happen. And then I'm going to add the 3 over. So I get 8 square roots of x plus 5 equals 24. Now it's a problem like we had yesterday. It's exactly like a problem we had yesterday. You still got to get the weird thing alone, so I got to get rid of this 8. I have to get rid of that 8. Gone. So I get the square root of x plus 5 equals 3. Now we square both sides. And I get x plus 5 equals 9, or x equals, finally, 4. I should check my answer. Now checking this one's pretty easy. So let me rewrite it over here. Square root of x plus 3. So we're going to do a check. I'll do the check without the calculator this time. Square root of x minus 3 plus the square root of x plus 5 plus the square root of x plus 5 equals 4. So my answer was x equals 4. So I'm going to plug that in. I'll do it with a different pen. 4 minus 3 plus the square root of 4 plus 5. Does that equal 4? Well, this is the square root of 1 plus the square root of 9. Does that equal 4? This is 1 plus 3 equals 4. Ka-ching! All right, kids, I'll be right back. All right, I think I got 4 of these left and we're done. Except, of course, I can't seem to figure out how. There we go. No, maybe not. All right, here we go. So I got to get the weird thing alone. So I'll just bring this one over. I'm going to subtract the square root of x plus 6. So I get square root of 2x minus 5 equals negative square root of x plus 6. Actually, I've isolated both radicals in this case, so I think this one's actually going to be a pretty easy one. I'm going to square both sides. So this gives me 2x minus 5 equals. Now remember, it's really like multiplying this thing times itself. The negative times negative makes positive, because you square anything, it's positive, and you just end up with x plus 6. Minus x. Minus x, I get x minus 5 equals 6. Bring the 5 over, I get x equals 11. So now I want to check my answer, because you always should check your answer. So let me rewrite this over here. Square root of 2x minus 5 plus... Now that bothers me already a little bit. Do you all see that it probably doesn't, you guys that may not be smart enough, or not smart enough, may not be mathematically mature enough to see something that might bother you, but take a look at this. We are going to add two things that have to be positive together and get 0. The only way to add two things that are positive to get 0 is if they're both 0. Then they wouldn't be positive, they'd just be 0. So these things, I don't know, this doesn't make any sense. Something's not right here. So let's see, we're going to plug in 2. We're going to plug in 11. So 2 times 11 minus 5 plus the square root of 11 plus 6 equals 0. So this is the square root of 22 minus 5. 22 minus 5 is, what's that, 17? Plus the square root of 17 equals 0. And so square root of 17 plus the square root of 17 is 2 square. This is all behind my head, isn't it? Square root of 17 plus the square root of 17 is 2 square roots of 17, which clearly does not equal 0. So the answer to this case is you got to come back and you got to say, okay, wrong answer, doesn't work. My answer is empty set. Whoa, that was awful. Let's try those again. My answer is the empty set. No solution to that one. And that happens a lot, kids, so be aware of it. All right. So you might be inclined to bring that 1 over, but I already have this radical isolated, so I'm okay with that. So I'm going to square this side, and I'm going to square this side. So this side I'm just going to write twice. The square root of x plus 2 plus 1 times the square root of x plus 2 plus 1. Get in the habit of writing that twice. If you try to skip steps on these, oftentimes you will make a very dumb mistake, and you don't want to make dumb mistakes because that makes me mad. Let's double distribute this over here. So we get x plus 2. See, I'm not going to do this anymore. Those two together just give me x plus 2. They actually give me the square root of x plus 2 squared, but remember the square and the square root cancel each other out. So we really just end up with x plus 2 plus the square root of x plus 2 plus the square root of x plus 2 plus 1 equals 3 minus x. We're almost done. Let's see, let's clean up this left side. I get x plus 3 plus 2 square roots of x plus 2 equals, the 3 came from adding the 1 and the 2 together. And these two just make up 2 of these things. Equals 3 minus x. All right, let's bring everything over. So we're going to subtract x and subtract 3. So I'm going to subtract x and I'm going to subtract 3. This was an x here. I'm going to subtract x and I'm going to subtract 3. So I end up with 2 square roots of x plus 2 equals negative 2x. Woo! Almost done, kids. We're going to divide by 2 because you have to isolate the weird thing. You still have to get this thing alone. So now I end up with the square root of x plus 2 equals negative x. Now we square both sides. Square this side, square this side. And I get x plus 2 equals x squared. Anytime you have a squared, it means you're going to be factoring. It also probably means you're going to have some bogus solutions, some extraneous solutions. So we're going to do 0 equals x squared. So we're going to subtract the x and subtract the 2. X squared minus x minus 2. So we have to factor. X minus 2, x plus 1. So my two answers are x equals 2 and x equals negative 1. Both have to be checked. Both of them have to be checked, and you need to show the grader that you checked them. It's not good enough just to say, oh, they checked them. They definitely work. So let's write this over here. The square root of x plus 2 plus 1 equals the square root of 3 minus x. The square root of 3 minus x. So we're going to check. We have two answers. X equals 2. We'll check that one first. So 2 plus 2 plus 1. Does that equal the square root of 3 minus 2? So this is the square root of 4 plus 1. Does that equal the square root of 1? This is 2 plus 1. Does that equal 1? That does not check. So 2 has to go away. It's an extraneous solution. Check it again. Now we're going to plug in x equals negative 1. Let me do this in a different color. Now we're going to do x equals negative 1. So square root of negative 1 plus 2 plus 1. Does that equal the square root of 3 plus 1? Square root of 3 minus negative 1. So this is just the square root of 1 plus 1. Does that equal the square root of 4? And the square root of 1 is 1 plus 1. Does that equal 2? And yes, that equals 2. So I come back to my answers and I say, number 2, you don't work. The only answer is negative 1. All right, rule 1, isolate a radical. There it is. This one's isolated. So I am going to square both sides. Write your steps down. Show your work. Otherwise, you're going to make dumb mistakes. Lots of places to make dumb mistakes on these. Because a square and a square root cancel. So we've done this before now. The square root of 3x minus 8 times the square root of 3x minus 8 is just 3x minus 8. Plus 1 square root of 3x minus 8 plus 1 square root of 3x minus 8 plus 1 equals x plus 5. Right? Because this is just 1 and 1. Now in the future, you know it's going to be 1 and 1. Just put 2. All right, let's clean up the left side. I get 3x minus 7 plus 2 square roots of 3x minus 8 equals x plus 5. This, I like to have this positive. So I'm going to bring this over. I'm going to subtract 3x, and I'm going to add 7. So I end up with 2 square roots of 3x minus 8. These went over to the other side, is equal to negative 2x plus 12. You still got to get the weird thing alone. This is the weird thing. It's got to be isolated. Every time you do these, this is like a problem we did yesterday. You got to get the weird thing alone. So we're going to divide by 2, and I get the square root of 3x minus 8 equals. Now, both of these get divided by 2, so this is negative x plus 6. I've got the weird thing isolated, so now I can take and square both sides. Now at this point, I know I'm going to square that. Maybe I'll just write it twice. I know I'm squaring it. Just write it twice, because that's what squared means. So on the left side, I get 3x minus 8 equals, all right, negative x times negative x is x squared, right? Because negative times negative is positive. And then I get minus 6x plus 36. Now we got to bring everything to the left side, the right side, because my x squared is positive here. So I'm going to bring everything over. 3x plus 8 minus 3x plus 8. So I end up with 0 equals x squared minus, now what is all this? Minus 21x plus 44. Why did I get 21x? I knew something was wrong there. How about negative 6 and negative 6 is negative 12, minus 3 is 15. That makes more sense. Okay, whoo. Started to get scared there for a minute. My answers weren't going to work out. So 0 equals x, and x, let's see, 4 and 11, minus 4, minus 11. They add up to negative 15. They multiply to 44. So my two answers are x equals 4 and x equals 11. By now you've realized that when you have almost every time you have a quadratic and you have two answers, one of them will be extraneous. It's not always the case, but it certainly is more times than not. So let's do our check over here. I'll try to get it from behind my head. The square root of 3x minus 8 plus 1, does that equal the square root of x plus 5? And our two answers were 4 and 11. So we're going to try, I'm going to try x equals 4 first. So let's just plug that in. 3 times 4 minus 8 plus 1. Does that equal the square root of 4 plus 5? Well, 3 plus 4 is 12. 12 minus 8 is 4. So this is the square root of 4 plus 1. Does that equal the square root of 9? This is 2 plus 1. Does that equal 3? Ka-ching! So this works. I know that that one works. So let's try this next one. We're going to plug in x equals 11. I'm pretty sure this one's not going to work, kids. 3 times 11 plus, oops, got to get the right check, minus 8 plus 1. Does that equal 11 plus 5? Well, 11 plus 5 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So I need this side to come out to be 4. 8 times 11 is 33. 33 minus 8 is 25. So this is the square root of 25 plus 1. The square root of 25 is 5. 5 plus 1 is not equal to 4. Not going to work. So I come over here and I say, nope, you don't work. My only answer is 4. All righty, kids, one more problem. All right, let's check this baby out. I've isolated this one, so that's cool. Just square it. And this one I'm just going to write twice because I know I got to square it anyway. I might as well just write it twice now. this square and this square root cancel, leaves me 3x equals, all right, 9 plus, now this is 3 of these and this is 3 of these, so plus 6 square roots of x minus 3. Hopefully I can skip that step. And then the square root of x minus 3 times the square root of x minus 3 is just x minus 3. All right, so we got 3x equals x plus 6 square roots of x minus 3, right? So I just put the x out front, and I put this 9 together with this minus 3. All right, everything's got to come to the left side, so we'll subtract x, subtract 6, subtract x, subtract 6. So I end up with 2x minus 6 equals, don't know why I did that. Not ready for that yet. Equals 6 square roots of x minus 3. This one's going to be a pain in the neck. Divide by 6. You'll see why in a second. So I'm going to divide each of these by 6. It's the same as dividing the whole side by 6. This ends up being 2 over 6 is 1/3 x minus 1 equals the square root of x minus 3. Holy woo, kids, this one's going to be rough. You better go crazy. I hope teachers did this one in class for you. We're going to square both sides. So this means 1/3 x minus 1 times 1/3 x minus 1 equals x minus 3. 1/3 x times 1/3 x is 1/9 x squared. Minus 1/3 and minus 1/3 is minus 2/3 x plus 1, because these multiply to plus 1, is equal to x minus 3. Now here's the problem. I got all these crazy fractions. I hate dealing with fractions, so I'm going to teach you a way to get rid of fractions. There's a 9 here in the denominator, and there's a 3. So the common denominator between 9 and 3 is 9. So I'm going to multiply everything by 9. 9, 9, and 9. I'm going to multiply everything by 9 because I hate having fractions. So here's what happens. These 9s cancel. So I'm left with x squared. 9 goes into 3, or 9 goes into 3 goes into 9 3 times. So I end up with minus 6x plus 9 equals 9x minus 27. Notice there's no more fractions. And these are, in fact, equivalent equations. All right, bring everything to the left side. So I get x squared minus 15x plus 36 equals 0. I got 2 sets of parentheses. You got to multiply to 36 and add up to 15. Both of them have to be negative because they got to multiply to something that's positive. How about 3 and 12? So my two answers are x equals 3 and x equals 12. Those are my two answers. Are they both going to work? I'll tell you what, we're going to use the calculator to check these because I'm feeling really lazy. And I'll show you how the calculator can check these very, very, very fast. So first thing first, we're going to store, what were my two answers? 3 and 12. We're going to store 3 in. So we're going to do these quickly. 3 control var x. So square root of 3x. Enter, 3. And the other side is 3 plus, so 3 plus the square root of x minus 3. Enter, 3. It worked. Now the beauty is, now that I've plugged that in once, the only thing left that's really hard is I just got to store 12 now. Store 12 into x. And now don't retype those lines. Just hit the up arrow, up arrow, up arrow, up arrow. You highlight that one, and you get 6. And then go up to the top one. Go up to this one, highlight that one, 6. They both work. Okay, that doesn't happen very often. So in this case, both are solutions, and so to be professional, you should come over here off to the side and say, my two answers are 3 and 12. They both work. And that's it, kids. That's all she wrote for that day. Thanks for sharing your time with me. I appreciate it. I hope you appreciate the video. Please hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help a lot during the end of the year when we start doing review. And I start putting up all kinds of videos on solutions for all different kinds of things. And I also do a lot of test prep throughout the year. So if your teacher's using this material and you want some cool test prep during these units, I do some really cool solutions on some test prep. And if you're subscribed, you're going to get a copy of the video as soon as it comes out. All right? Thanks for joining me. Catch you on the flip side, kids. Bye.